Part 1 of the Gates-Obama-Crowley Beerfest Stupidity, also known as Stupidly. Now we know that the sergeant who arrested a professor is a liar and fabricated his police report. Yet, where is the outcry? Miss, Mrs. and Mr. Public, you allowed this alarmingly authoritarian situation to stand. The implications will be horrific. To Bob Healy, city manager of Cambridge, instead of Robert Watson and Chuck Wexler convening a committee to facilitate an analysis and develop recommendations that the department can use as guidance in the future, I have another idea. Why not give Sgt Crowley the same preferential treatment he forced on a distinguished scholar, Professor Gates? I'm certain Crowley will still lie explaining his fairy tale report, but at least he'll get his lesson. Miss Whalen never actually spoke with Crowley, according to Wendy Murphy, her attorney, yet 1/3 of the police report detailed his supposed interaction and spoken words with Miss Whalen. Let's give him a chance explaining the discrepancy. And after all this hoopla, America is entitled, Mr. Healy. Crowley wrote in his police report, "These actions on the behalf of Gates." Ouch. Crowley is an instructor, correct? Okay, one more time. And caused citizens passing by this location to stop and take notice while appearing surprised and alarmed. Just how much truth is in that sentence, Mr. Healy? Crowley also describes Miss Whalen as white when she is in fact Portuguese. How can a person who can't tell a Portuguese apart from a white female be qualified to teach classes on racial profiling? Any idea, Mr. Healy? My goodness, you also said, quote, "The committee will not conduct an internal investigation, nor will they make any official judgment on the actions of the officers involved. Rather, the department will take the lessons learned surrounding the incident and how those lessons can be applied to the practices in training." Is that so? Now that America knows it was the sergeant who lied, the committee only wants to move forward. I like to point out that in order to move forward, it is imperative to acknowledge the mistakes from the past. All these police associations showing up backing a liar. Impossible to stop this train. They're ahead and already shoved their power and attitude down the throats of every one of us. And they knocked Bill Maher being truthful. Oh, shucks, Mr. Healy, who knows? You might have just underestimated the American public, as they can, and they might force you to investigate, you know. I will personally start a petition, as I am the victim of a horrific situation with a rogue police officer, but more on that in my next videos. Crowley said, quote, "There are not many certainties in life, but it is certain Sgt Crowley will not be apologizing." That comment said all we needed to know about Crowley's persona. And now that we know he fabricated the police report, this rogue cop must be fired. We must teach the police that this kind of behavior will not be tolerated. The blue wall of silence, i.e. an unwritten, unspoken code by which cops protect their own. Sure, other officers verified Crowley's version, but according to their code, they naturally would. If you don't behave docile and submissive to police officers, regardless of whether the cops are right or wrong, you are likely to find yourself arrested or beaten. Some officers are murderers with badges and guns. How was Professor Gates to know whether he will come out alive? How many deaths did we see on YouTube, brutally beaten with swollen limbs and faces? Sure, Crowley was vituperated by Professor Gates. And for Crowley, like most cops, anything less than total deference was unacceptable. How dare he? I have a badge, for heaven's sake. That is alarmingly authoritarian in its implications. Seeing the Cambridge Police Department and their many police associations lined up remind me of the joke, how many does it take to screw in a light bulb? They seem to have the manpower. Why not employ a properly trained sergeant that could handle the situation more effectively? I wonder how often Crowley tells students not to take any blankety-blank from anyone. I would love to reward someone coming forward with that information. What the police can always count on is that no matter how aggressively they escalate the use of violence, and no matter how obviously innocent or helpless his victims are, a police officer can count on his bosses, even associations he does not belong to repeat any lie and make any excuse in order to find that official procedures were followed. Any form of brutality or violence is therefore passed off as okay, and the judgment will be dutifully repeated by enablers in the news media and the legal system. And now, being abusive will get you an invite to the White House.